You're listening to the next episode of the Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch, a 25-year entrepreneur, and I created Main Street Success Stories to share others' journeys to help you learn, grow, stay motivated, and know that you are not alone in this game called entrepreneurship. Today, I have the honor of sitting down with Ciara Stockeland, a seasoned entrepreneur and founder of Inventory Genius. She is a profit strategist. She is going to take us through her journey as a third-generation entrepreneur to a successful business consultant. Ciara shares her highs and lows from building a seven-figure business to losing everything, including her house. How she rebuilt with a new focus on financial health and strategic growth. This episode is for you if you would like to learn how to manage inventory, cash flow, understand your financials, and build a business that not only survives, but thrives. I invite you to listen in. Today, I am so excited to welcome you, Ciara, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
I'm really honored to have you because your vast experience as an entrepreneur and your wisdom are going to be such an asset for anyone listening, no matter where they are in their journey. So, Ciara, you call yourself a profit strategist with a focus on inventory-based businesses.
Yes.
But looking at your story, I know you had to reframe that. So please take us through how you became an entrepreneur and your journey to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'm a third generation entrepreneur. Grandpa, dad both own small business. When it was coming up to the time of life when you decide what you want to be when you grow up, I could not think of anything that I wanted to go to college for. I was playing flute at the time and pretty good at it, but I didn't want to teach. I like performing. So the thought of that just didn't make sense. I just didn't know. In fact, I remember driving around with my dad. We'd go to get the cars washed on Saturdays. And I said, what should I do? And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, that does not help. So small business just was natural for me. I had been the kid with the lemonade stand. I had multiple small businesses, and in my teen years, high school years. So that's what I went into. I had a couple of businesses that were pretty successful, and then got married, had kids. And at the time, I was running a theater company that I had started, and I decided to be done with that part of my entrepreneurial journey. It had been a decade doing that. So my next venture was going to be retail. I wanted to open a brick and mortar store and build a brand. I knew nothing about retail. I'd never worked in retail a day in my life. But I thought I can buy and sell stuff. I can do that. So I created a high-end boutique concept, opened a store in 2006, and ended up building that, growing it, and franchising it in 2010. And we grew that to a seven-figure business. We had multiple locations around the country, corner office, massive warehouse, all of the things people would want, right? Entrepreneur magazine article, testify on Capitol Hill, small business advocacy. So I was doing really well on the outside looking in, but behind the scenes, I felt like I had this dirty secret. Something was wrong, and I could feel that it was wrong. And I mentioned it to my team. This was 2015, and even to my husband, who was very involved he knew what was going on in the business, and he's always been a great supporter. And everyone's like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? You're selling stores, cash is coming in, you're testifying on Capitol Hill, all these things. Well, in 2017, woke up one morning and saw that some of our franchisees had completely changed the name of their store. And through that, we discovered a lot of things going on. And long story short, in about a year's worth of time, we lost the entire business, including our home. We lost everything. And so I was back on the couch thinking, like, what do I do? I mean, my kids are in school. My husband was at work. I had been going, leading a team, always busy, bossing people around, doing things, creating things. And now I was just sitting. And I thought, what was that for? Like, all those relationships and all that learning. And so a good mentor of mine who had walked through that really hard part of our journey with us had said to me, Ciara, sometimes things happen in your life that are beyond your control. People do bad things, right? And things can happen to you. But it's always important to see what part of that you played, what part of that, was part of your decision making, right? And so I had to sit back and say, like, even though this was not my plan and a lot of it came because of other people's actions, there was a part of that story that I had to own. And I had not focused on growing things the right way. And so what if I did this again But this time around, I did it differently. I took my margin of time. I didn't answer emails 24/7. I didn't hustle and grind like they always say. I didn't work to build a seven-figure business, but I worked to build something that would give me a paycheck from day one and debunk the myth that you can't be profitable for 5 years, because I think that's silly. So, so I relaunched a new business, built that, grew it, and sold it within 18 months. And through that part of the journey, started to meet other product-based business owners that had been or were in that same spot with their numbers. We don't understand what's going on. And so just started having conversations. And that's how the Inventory Genius consulting business was born.
Wow, Ciara. I mean, what 11 years of highs and lows. 11 years
Yes.
of a roller coaster from the day you opened up your retail store to the day that you had to rebuild. And, take me back to that time when you rebuilt. Was there a part of you when you were sitting on the couch and finally had time to reflect and look back that thought, I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore?
Not that. I think I'm wired to fix problems. So I love being a disruptor. I love looking for a problem and solving it. But the part of me that didn't want to do something again was the people side. I had been really hurt and really burned. And if we ever talk about, the depth of the story, there were such ugly things that had happened to myself and my family. And I was like, I'll rebuild and I'll create something again, but I will not have people. I will never have employees. I will not help boutique owners in particular, which I think God is amazing, because what he decides is, not how we would frame it. I think his sense of humor is awesome. So while I'm like, oh my goodness, every boutique owner in the entire world is out to get me and screw me over, he's like, actually, that's who you're going to work with. So that's who he put me in front of. So it was more that, like, that protective mechanism, because I had come off of about a year of, like, literally feeling like I was in the corner, doubled up, just getting kicked and kicked and beat up and kicked and beat up. And I was like, I will not do that again. Like, I'll build stuff, I'll build it, sell. And actually, that's why I wanted to build and sell, was more out of fear, right? Like, I'll just get rid of it before anyone can hurt me. So it was more that, and I had to really work through that. And he did that with a couple particular people that he brought into my life, which is a cool part of the story too. But yeah, that was hard.
I bet. And so impressive. So you picked yourself up and you decided to build a business in what you say is the right way. And the first part of your journey, you said you were so focused on the revenue number. And I see that all the time with entrepreneurs, because the revenue number's fun. It's the adrenaline. It's something we can kind of share without being too
Yeah.
personal. We see it all over social, all these programs, 6 figures, get to seven
Yes.
figures. Well, you learned that chasing that number is exhausting and can be a chase. So when you say the right way and you decided to build a business that wasn't just about having to have a ton of people involved, what was the number one thing that you thought, okay, I'm going to focus on first?
Yeah. So for me, by that point, I understood how much inventory played into the ability to keep and produce cash flow. So when I had started, I didn't understand that. Like, if you're a product-based business, inventory is your lifeblood, and without it, you will die. And so if you don't manage that. And so the next business I built was also product-based business. And I knew that I had to have the margins that would create cash flow, create a paycheck for me. So that was a focus. Setting up clean financials from day one, because I hadn't done that. I didn't know who to ask. And I really got taken advantage of, which I will say a lot of your listeners have probably, or feel this way, by bookkeepers. There's a lot of them that are not good at what they do. In fact, I have a client this morning, Jennifer, that just messaged me, and she's hiring a new bookkeeper because she's not getting what she's paying for. And this new bookkeeper went in and said, oh my goodness, do you know what's been going on in your books? And these are professional. And I had been taken advantage of by bookkeepers who promise things. And I didn't know what to ask them, and I didn't know what to look for. So I didn't know how to watch that. And so those were the things the second time around. I'm like, I'm going to set up clean books. Now I know what they should look like. I'm going to only buy and sell what actually makes me money, not what I'm emotionally attached to, all of those things. And that's what I use with my clients, because I know what works, and I know what was winning for me, and I know what made me lose a lot as well.
So let's dive into that a little bit more, because you're right. That is a really scary piece of owning a business, especially for those that are creative. A lot of us start a business because we have a passion for a product or a service, and we just want to serve people. We just want to help people. And at the end of the day, sometimes we think, oh, it's all just going to work out, right? If I just get more people in the doors, it's all going to work out. So you are reframing the way you're teaching your clients about cash flow, inventory, looking at profit margins, all of those things. But if somebody is really scared of their numbers or is
Yeah.
unsure of what to look at, is there a couple of things that you would really say, these need to be key pivotal figures that you are making decisions based on?
Yes. Yeah. So I think whenever we're scared of anything in life, whether it's in business or personal life, relationship, whatever, when we're scared, it's because we don't understand. So the reason people are scared of their numbers or scared of looking at them or diving in is just because they don't understand them. And so I just really break things down very simply. I don't think numbers have to be complicated. We all know how to do math, subtraction and addition. And that's all that a profit and loss is, just subtraction and addition. It's super simple. And there's 5 main categories. So I always start by helping people understand what are the financial pieces, like the pieces in the financial set, what's the purpose of them. So a profit and loss is a rear view mirror. It just shows you what came in and what went out. Like, what were the sales and what did those sales cost you and how much is it to operate your business? There's 5 areas of P&L, and it's a simple math problem. And a balance sheet is a snapshot in time. It's just to show you the health of your business as of any day and time. So you can say as of December 3rd, you can say as of December 31st. As of that day, how healthy was my business? And by health, we measure that with your assets, which is how much cash you have at the top of the balance sheet or things you can turn into cash, and how much debt. So what do you have and what do you owe people? And when I explain that, they're like, oh, okay, well, that's not super scary. So now we know. So now we don't have to be afraid, right? Because now we have the information. And then we just break down, like, what do we want each of those numbers to say? And I tell people, like, instead of learning all the numbers, choose one and just get in love with that number. So, like, if you fall in love with someone, you know everything about them, you want to know where they came from and what their goals are and all the things. Same thing with the number. So I say focus on margin first. Get to know everything there is about your margin. What does margin mean? Where does it come from? When I have good margin, how come? When I don't have good margin, why? When have I had good margin? And you just learn everything about that one number. And then when you become confident in that, you move on and you add another number to your portfolio.
Oh my gosh, what an awesome way to describe to somebody how to look at their financials. And I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. And there's this idea of, like you said, if we don't understand it, we're scared of it. So I'm just going to bury my head in the sand. And then I'm going to turn it over to my accountant and he's going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And we have to take some ownership in that. We can't,
Yeah.
like you said, just turn it over, because we have seen really good people get burnt by hiring someone who maybe isn't qualified enough to help them.
Yeah. And I think even if we have a good bookkeeper, because there are also bookkeepers out there that are phenomenal, I like to explain to entrepreneurs, a bookkeeper's job is to gather the information, put it in a tidy little package, and deliver it to you. They are not strategists. You will rarely find a bookkeeper, accountant, or even a CPA that is forward thinking. They are always looking behind and saying, well, here's what you did last year. You owe taxes. Oh, here's what you did last year. You don't owe taxes, right? And that's okay, because that's their job, as long as the information is delivered to us correctly, right? So what I do as a profit strategist is I look at those numbers and I help an entrepreneur understand, what does it mean for tomorrow? Or if I want to be here 12 months from now, what can I do with the numbers I have to create a different picture with these puzzle pieces? And they're just not going to get that from a bookkeeper, accountant, or literally even a CPA. They're just not, because that's not how they're wired. They're very they're just analytical and they're just always looking behind. So if we expect that from them, it's not really fair, right? And so we have these bookkeepers and they say, like you said, I'll just give them the information. They'll give me these things and they'll tell me if something's wrong. They'll let me know. Well, they probably really won't, because it's not their job.
You're absolutely right. And something that I have a discussion with my clients a lot too is, the data tells the story of our business. And how can we use that and keep referring back to the data to make good decisions going forward? So I love how
Yeah.
you kind of, explain that you're right. It's unrealistic expectations if we expect those people in our team to help us look forward. So a lot of times when businesses come to work with you, because you have a program called the Inventory Genius Consulting Program, what's the number one problem you typically see? Are they loaded in debt? Are they having a hard time paying themselves? Are they just, have too much inventory? Like, what are you seeing as kind of the common problem that today's business owners might be struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say I take them from financial stress to financial freedom. And the financial stress comes from one of two things. These are the questions I always get asked. Either I have so much debt, how am I going to get out of it? Or more common than that, I have so many sales coming in, where's the money? Everyone's like, where's the money? I just talked to a potential client yesterday. They do about a half a million in revenue. Like they have sales. He's like, we have a proven concept. We have no trouble selling. We have no trouble getting, where is it? I don't know where it's at. Like, where's all the cash? And if you're an inventory based business, that's a very crucial question to ask. And I know for myself, it took a long time to wrap my head around that 500,000, what of that is tied up in the inventory that actually went out, and what do I have to replace it? Where does that money come from? And then what's left at the end of the day, where does that come from? And so we just break that down, and it just the flow of our P&L. And so just help them understand that. But that's really what it is. It's financial stress caused either by debt, most often just by cash flow management. They just don't know what's going on. Where's it at?
And it's funny because the P&L can show you a healthy number, and you're right. You look at your bank account and they're like, okay, how am I going to pay the next
Yes.
inventory that's coming in? Money can have a lot of emotion to it. And when a business owner finds themselves in a place where they are, just struggling to make the next payroll, struggling to, buy inventory, sometimes it can be really hard to kind of get their momentum going and get them moving forward again. And those are the times in an entrepreneur's journey that they might just want to quit.
Yeah.
And this is where, you and I have talked before about resiliency and grit. And how do you help somebody mentally kind of come out of that? Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm failing. I can't pay anybody. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. I think it's defining what success looks like to them. So we have that conversation, why do you want to be a seven-figure business? I mean, if that's what you want, sure. But if that's because that's what makes you feel successful or what people tell you, no. What do you want for a schedule? What do you like to sell? What do you like to do? Why did you start your business in the first place? So defining that success, and then let's create the story. So I always think of numbers as a puzzle pieces. So if you get a puzzle, you dump it all out on the table. The first thing you're going to do is prop up the cover, right? We've done this since we were little kids. We prop up the cover so we can see the picture. Okay, now I know the picture. Then what's the next thing we've all done since we were 3 years old? You flip the pieces over, you look for the edges, you look for the square corners, right? We do this with our numbers too. So what's the picture you're trying to paint? Now, what are the edges? How do we create the framework? And then we start to build the inside. So what entrepreneurs love to do is just start building the inside, and they don't have a picture, and it's in their mind, or it's someone else's picture, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I have a very specific framework that I use with every single client that really does that, like what we would do with a puzzle. And that really helps them define like where they want to go and gives them the hope that we can actually get there. And what's interesting, Jennifer, is a lot of times where we end up isn't what I can see where I think they're going to end up, but where they end up, they never have imagined it. So we close stores. I've helped so many people close multiple locations because it's not making, and you don't have, who cares what people think? Like,
Right.
so we'll walk through those things, or they'll simplify down. Or I have a client that has retail, wholesale, and private label. Why are we doing all of this? Why don't you just do the one thing that gives you financial freedom, right? So when they have the information and they're no longer afraid of the numbers, it can give them the freedom to do those things, to say no to certain things. Most often we aren't saying yes, right? We're not throwing things against the wall anymore. We're simplifying down. And then those wins, we taste those, and that feels really good. I had a client who we helped close a side of her business, and she's like, Ciara, I'm going to join a book club because I have extra time. Like I have time now, and so we get to do those kinds of things when we know our numbers too.
What a beautiful approach you're taking to helping your clients, because it's a very holistic approach. You're having those discussions with them about what do you want to build? Because I do think we get caught up in we're supposed to be bigger is better.
Yeah,
And I was talking to a client today about how can we simplify what you're doing? And the
yeah,
fact that you're not only helping people with their cash, but you're also giving them back time. What a rewarding career you have
it
created.
is. It is. I love it.
And I'm sure, the loaded question, if you could go back to that original journey, would you do it again? And, would you do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking this just for myself the other day. I was like, I would just because I love where I am now. And if the plan that I had fulfilled itself, I don't think I'd be happy. I'm a believer and I mean, happiness and contentment's what you create as well. But I wouldn't have the joy that I have in doing what I do. But I never knew that this was even a job for me, right? Like, so I had to go through all of those pieces and kind of going back to that resilience conversation that you and I have had multiple times. I had to build the skill sets necessary. So when I was on the couch, I had things to draw on so that I didn't stay on the couch and stay bitter and end up just go working 8 to 5, right? Like, so those tools were already in my tool chest. And so I was ready to move forward. I had amazing people in my life, like that mentor that was like, but what part did you contribute? Right. And because I was willing to listen to her, I could take that in. And then because I could digest that, I could say, okay, so then I'm going to do this different. So I wouldn't change it. I mean, I think it's part of my story. Besides, when I tell people I lost everything, including my home, like they usually stop and listen to me. So it's a good story to have because people do perk up. And I'll tell people you will too. Like you can't play store with your store forever. You have to do the hard work or you will lose. Now, maybe not to the extreme that I did, but yeah, it's serious business.
It is serious business. And I love that you had someone in your camp that could tell you the hard truth and just ask you that question, what part did you play? I one time had a business coach say to me when I owned my bakery, you bought yourself a job. And I'll never forget that because it seemed harsh at the
Yeah.
time. But boy, did it make me change the way I was operating. And he was right. I
Yeah.
wasn't operating like an owner. I was operating like an employee. I was going to
Yeah.
work every day, doing the tasks and basically punching out for very little hourly income.
Yeah.
And so when he
Yeah.
told me that, it made me rethink how I was operating, what I was charging, who I needed in my camp, and just kind of how to build a business that
Yeah.
eventually we could sell. So, Ciara, you have an amazing book called The Inventory Genius. You also have a podcast. So, if somebody's listening today, who is at what part of their journey or what are the numbers that they're looking at? What would you say to them to give you a call? Somebody who is feeling what would be a
Financially
great person,
stressed.
financially
Anyone feeling
stressed.
financially stressed in their business. And like I mentioned, that can look like anything. I mean, I'll have people come to me that have no debt and are doing 5 million and are financially stressed. I had one gal come to me. I love her story because she said, see her, she had no debt. She had a small ecom business and she's like, I don't want to grow because I will lose it all. I don't know how to manage money. So I don't want to grow because I don't know what to do with it if I grow. And I was like, well, we can fix that. Like, let's fix that. So we started working together. She has 10 times her revenue in 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, because she listens to everything I tell her to do.
Love those
And
coachable clients.
I know, I'm like, I love her. And it's because she knew where her weakness is. And she said, I'm not going to settle. Like, I'm not going to say I'm a hot mess. I'm not going to use this excuse. It bothers me when people say, I'm so confused. Why? You don't have to stay confused, right? Like, she just wouldn't buy into those lies about herself. She's like, I don't want to be a hot mess. I don't want to be confused forever. I don't want to limit myself. And so, who can I find that can help me? So for her, financial stress was just the thought of losing it. Like, I don't want to work and lose it, right? For some people, financial stress might be I have so much debt and I remortgage my home and I don't know what to do and I can't pay myself. So if they're feeling stressed, I think I can help. I know I can help them. I love a big mess. Nothing scares me. I think everything is solvable. It's not always the solution we envision, but everything is solvable. And so on my website, I have a quiz I just put up there. I love it. We all love a good quiz.
That's
You can
right.
just go to my website and take the quiz to figure out where you would fit and then book a call with me and we'll chat about what I can do to help you.
Well, Sarah, I have no doubt that God used your story and your journey to bless others, and that's exactly what you're doing. Thank you so much for just kind of shedding light and taking the scary out of the financials. I love how you break down financials with your wonderful analogies. And I'm going to put your website in the show notes, anywhere else that listeners can connect with you.
I think the website's perfect because everything about me is there. So if you head over there, you will get a lot of inventory, financial strategy, a lot of Ciara. So that'll be perfect.
Well, and I would highly recommend diving into your knowledge. So thank you, Ciara, for helping us to think about putting our profit first and for being a guest today.
Thanks for having me.
What a delightful conversation with Ciara. Not only did she share some very practical advice on how to review our financials, make decisions using our financials, she also talked about resilience and redefining success. Redefining what success looks like beyond just the revenue. It can be different for everyone. And you have the permission, it's your choice to build the type of business that you want to build. I love how she focused on a holistic business approach, including your personal time and your satisfaction. So I hope you take what she shared today, review your numbers, and create a path to be more profitable in the future. If you are a small business owner who has plateaued or your business is just not giving you all that you desire, I invite you to my Fast Track Growth in 90 Days program. This program is designed to help you increase revenue, improve profits, and build momentum to get you on track again. You can learn a lot from the link in the show notes below. Until next time, thanks for listening. Keep building and remember to support your local businesses. They need you now more than ever.